A bustling city street with tall buildings, busy sidewalks filled with pedestrians, and cars honking in the background. Clear skies and bright sunlight highlight the vibrant morning atmosphere. People hurrying along the busy sidewalks, some carrying coffee cups or briefcases, while others chat or check their phones. The camera captures the movement and energy of the crowd. Sarah Thompson walking briskly through the crowd, dressed in professional attire, her posture upright and her gaze slightly downward. She clutches a black leather bag in her right hand. Sarah Thompson's face, her green eyes distant and unfocused, reflecting a thoughtful and introspective mood. The bustling crowd blurs in the background. A wide view of the sidewalk in front of the small grocery store, lined with benches and flower pots. Bright natural sunlight illuminates the scene. Sarah Thompson walks along the sidewalk, glancing at her phone while holding her purse. She appears focused and slightly hurried. Mrs. Winters sits on the sidewalk near the grocery store, struggling to hold on to several shopping bags as they begin to slip from her grip. Sarah Thompson slows down and notices Mrs. Winters sitting on the sidewalk, her gaze fixed on the struggling elderly woman. A quiet residential street lined with trees and modest apartment buildings. Flowers bloom in window boxes, and the scene is lit by bright natural sunlight. Sarah Thompson and Mrs. Winters walk side by side on the residential street. Sarah Thompson carries 2 shopping bags, and Mrs. Winters walks with a slight hunch but smiles warmly. Sarah Thompson, carrying 2 shopping bags, gazes attentively at Mrs. Winters as they stroll down the street. Both are surrounded by blooming flowers and dappled sunlight. Mrs. Winters gestures with one hand while walking, her face animated as she shares a story. Sarah Thompson listens intently beside her. A cozy kitchen with vintage decor, shelves filled with books, and family photos adorning the walls. Soft, natural light streams through the window, illuminating the space. Sarah Thompson holds kitchen counter, holding a grocery bag in one hand, looking at Mrs. Winters with a warm smile. Mrs. Winters stands beside her with a petite frame, gesturing towards the countertop. Sarah Thompson's hands carefully placing a grocery bag on the counter. The bag contains fresh produce and a loaf of bread. Mrs. Winters' hands as she adjusts a stack of books on the counter. Her hands show gentle wrinkles, a testament to her age. The exterior of Mrs. Winters' apartment building is visible, surrounded by blooming flowers and bathed in bright sunlight under clear skies. Sarah Thompson stands on the sidewalk outside Mrs. Winters' apartment building, facing away from the building with her posture relaxed. She holds her bag in one hand while looking over her shoulder. Mrs. Winters stands at the door of her apartment building, smiling warmly and waving goodbye with one hand. The bright sunlight illuminates her face, highlighting her face filled with gratitude. From Sarah Thompson's point of view, Mrs. Winters is seen standing at the door of her apartment building, waving with a grateful expression. The flowers in the foreground add a sense of calm. Sarah felt a sense of satisfaction. Lesson learned from this story is, kindness doesn't cost a thing, but it can change everything.